All right, let's talk about the Cowboys just a little bit and the running game. Man, we talked about the passing game prior to the bye week and during the bye week and how they had to use more modernized concepts and cheat codes to make the just really to make life easier on Dak Prescott and to get the football, to force feed the football and weaponize CeeDee Lamb. They did that, actually. Did all those things, and the passing game looked a lot better. I'm not sure if the running game has experienced the same boost that the passing game recently did. Hopefully that continues. But I think a lot of the passing game is just getting the ball to CeeDee Lamb. Defenses will adjust, and then other guys like Brandon Cooks and Jake Ferguson, I think they'll get favorable matchups, and they'll get one-on-ones. They can win those too. So the passing game is getting better. What about the running game? If Tony Pollard doesn't take his game to the next level and doesn't start to become more of an impact player, I think the running game is going to continue to suffer. I'll give you a couple of stats. Tony Pollard last season, he ranked first in he was first in yards after contact per touch. He was second in explosive play rate. That was runs of 10 plus yards, and he was 18th in missed tackles forced per touch, which is still pretty damn good. At least he's up there toward the top. Now, in each of those metrics, he is 28th, 20th, and 33rd in all of those metrics when you look at running backs who qualify. And I know he's coming off the injury, so that's a big part of it too. So I'm not saying it's all on him, and a lot of it could be on the O-line as well. But he is definitely not performing at a really high level. He's just not the same explosive back. And a lot of it may be the fact that, I'm not going to say he's being overused, but he's not used to this type of burden and this usage as a bell cow, main, basically their bell cow of main focus running back. He's just not used to that. He's used to being kind of a complementary piece. And I'm not saying he can't do it. We've seen him do it situationally. We've seen him do it in different games, different matchups. But remember, that was only 1 week. If you go look at it, his best games last season, almost all of Pollard's high efficiency games came when he had under 20 touches, total touches, receptions, or carries. And there was only 1 week where he had a greater missed tackles forced per touch, if you go look at it, and basically over 3 yards after contact per touch, and more than 20 touches. Right, so only one of those games where he was really, really explosive and also got high usage. Usually he's really, really explosive with lower usage. This season, he started the season with 16, 32, and 26 touches. And his last 3 games, you go look at it, that's also something that's increased. I think coming off the injury, I think it's pretty clear that coming off of that injury, he's just not the same player when it comes to his explosive potential.
Well, that's been what I've noticed the most. And it's almost like last year when Zeke was starting and he didn't look explosive, and then they'd bring in Tony Pollard and he'd look explosive.
Yes, he's a complimentary piece.
Yeah, he'd come in, and all of a sudden you're like, man, who's this guy? He's getting 6-7 yards a carry. This guy's a big play waiting to happen. And then this year, when you watch the Cowboys, Pollard, he had a good first game. We had 2 touchdown rushing. Both were from the goal line against the Giants. His best game was against Arizona, went for 122 yards, over 5 yards a carry. But the other games, it's Rico Dowdle who comes in and looks more explosive. Dowdle comes in and it's like, oh, wow, there's some juice.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's a combination of the injury and maybe he did put on some weight in the offseason to try to get bigger to handle the rigor of being the number 1 back. I don't know. Cowboy fans can disagree with me. I just don't see the same explosive back. And I remember last year times talking about he's kind of Christian McCaffrey light in what he can do, with his shake, with his ability to create big plays in the passing game and the running game, his versatility. And you could see why the Cowboys, were looking to move on from Zeke. He just hasn't looked that explosive this year. Maybe it comes. Maybe he picks it up here. Still a half a season to play with an opportunity. But to this point, he has not looked like that player.
Yeah, and like I said, I think a big part of it is just right now a combination of course, the injury. I think that's a big part of it. But then the usage. He's through 7 games. He has 134 touches. 56 more than he had through 7 games last season. Now, that was expected, but I'm with E. I don't know if he put on the proper body armor, if you will, whether that be weight or whether that be more muscle mass, whatever it takes. Coming off the injury, that's tough too. Usually coming off an injury, guys don't get heavier coming off an injury. Usually they come in lighter because they don't want to put too much of a burden. They don't want to put too much weight on whatever that injury, especially when you're talking about lower body injury. So with Tony Pollard right now, I think the Cowboys, that's why getting a running back before the trade deadline wouldn't have been a bad idea. But I think a lot of his issues are due to the usage, and it's not over usage. It's just for him, it's something that he's not accustomed to. But it's not over usage. If he's going to be your bell cow main course running back, that's the kind of attention you give him. And something else that somebody brought up to me that I thought was interesting as to why Tony Pollard's usage and carries may be off, because the Cowboys have played such weird games. The running game can't get in sync because they're either blowing somebody out or they're being blown out, or it's a weird situation. How about this? 6 of the first 7 Dallas games have been decided by 12 or more points this season. They were up 26-3 early in the second quarter against the Rams before winning 43-20. One of those kind of unique scores, but they've had these games where either they're blowing a team out. You've talked about this too. They're blowing a team out, or now the 49ers, they're being blown out, or it's closer than it needs to be against the Cardinals. They just had strange performances and offensively, and they haven't really needed the run game to be consistent. Because if they're up big, well, you know what? They're up big. It's not a big deal if the running game's not working. They're just trying to choke out the clock. And you go look at it against the Eagles, I think you're going to need the running game more than ever, because the Eagles they're multi-dimensional. Right? They can hurt you with the running game, whether it be the quarterback running game or just traditional running game. They can hurt you with the passing game. We know that Jalen Hurts through the air with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. That's one of the best and most explosive passing games in the NFL. I'll throw this out there, though. The last time the Eagles played Dallas, Dak Prescott, even though he had a pick six and 6 sacks, he threw for nearly 350 yards. And remember, he had that third and 30 in the fourth quarter, and it led Dallas to a 40-34 win. Dak is 3-0 versus Nick Sirianni since 2021. Don't know what that is. It is what it is. He's throwing 11 touchdowns and 1 interception in those games. Dak shows up for the division. He does. And this is a divisional game, so I think Cowboys fans should be optimistic. Dak's going to have a good game, but it's the running game now that I'm worried about holding back the offense.
Yeah, and they're going up against the number 1 rush defense in the league in Philadelphia. They're susceptible. The Eagles are 25th, in passer rating allowed, so you can anticipate Dak having some good games here, or having a good game Sunday afternoon, but the rush offense, which hasn't been great, is running into one of the best fronts, if not the best front they'll see. And San Francisco obviously threw a blanket over the Cowboys defense the last time they played a top-end defense like this. But the Niners are good in both levels. They've gotten shredded the last couple of weeks, but the Eagles are susceptible to the pass, not the run. And they also rush the passer very well. They can put you in pass rush situations. And, one of the big factors there is the rookie Jalen Carter. I mean, he is just a problem at the line of scrimmage. You got to deal with him. They just had Aaron Donald last week. Now you're dealing with Jalen Carter, another the emerging defensive tackle out of Georgia.
His BGO is some of the best in the league. His ball get off. He is so quick with his ball get off.